Alex Perkins is a senior network engineer at Presidio Federal, co-host of the Cables2Cloud Podcast and AWS Community Builder. Alex has a wealth of experience architecting, automating, and securing data center fabrics and hybrid multi-cloud networks at scale.
Welcome to another episode of the Cloud Gambit. So today I have Alex Perkins, who has been on the show before. Actually, the last time we were together, we recorded in person at the legendary She Shed of none other than Yvonne Sharp out in the hills of Kentucky. Welcome on, my friend. Do you want to give yourself a proper introduction?
Yeah, thanks for having me, William. This is awesome. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a little bit. And like you said, recording in the She Shed was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I'll say. It's pretty awesome. So I'm Alex Perkins. I'm a senior network engineer at a VAR called Presidio Federal. So I work on, government and federal agency networking and hybrid cloud stuff. And then I'm also a co-host of the Cables2Cloud podcast, which you have been on multiple times. And I'm a AWS Community Builder and, just like to hang out all over various places throughout our little industry.
Right on. Isn't it pretty cool? So that I don't really talk about it as much as I should, but that AWS Community Builders program is pretty neat. There's a lot of cool perks that you get for being part of it. What do you think so far? Because you're about a year in, I think.
Yeah, I just got my 2-year renewal. So it's been awesome, man. The Slack community is insane. Like the Slack channel that you get access to is so big. I've been I was a Cisco champion for a couple of years, and there was a community there as well that's really large. But the community builder thing is just crazy. Like there's just so much stuff, and you get so many benefits. You get like a swag bag every year. You get credits, towards your account. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff. So.
Yeah, I've met so many great people, and through that Slack and through the community builders, and it's bleeded over even to professional in some cases. I met someone earlier on. His name was Jude Quintana. He wasn't actually part of the community builders at that point, but I sort of like pushed and prodded him to submit an application. But one time I was doing some really janky stuff with Terraform, like doing stuff that like you typically wouldn't do, like pushing it way beyond what it was supposed to be doing. But it was for something that was relatively important. And he had done something kind of similar on a blog. And so I reached out. I'm like, hey, you want to talk? This is kind of what I'm going through. If you, I'm big on favors. If you do a favor for me, I will be there for you when you need a favor, vice versa. So he, we got on, we looked at it, and he helped me out. And it was awesome. And that's what community is all about.
He's in the, is it the infrastructure as code Slack?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I remember his name. When you said his name, I was like, I know that name for sure.
Yeah. He has a great blog too. He's got a lot of good writing. Yeah, I'll have to let him know
for sure.
We're propping him up here. So yeah. How's the summer going so far, by the way?
Oh, the summer? It's good, man. It's been beautiful out here. I moved to outside of Asheville, North Carolina a couple of years ago, out in the mountains, which I love. The weather is just perfect. It's like 80 degrees in the summer. It's really humid, but it's just gorgeous, man. I love going out in the mountains. So it's been lots of fun.
That's awesome. Just being there. You have any travel plans, or you're already kind of in paradise? So
yeah, it's funny. We went to the beach last year for like a family vacation, and we got home and we were like, oh, the mountains. Like it was just so nice to be back. I'm just not a beach person. I know lots of people are, but I just enjoy the mountains.
I do like the beaches whenever so usually if I've like worked a ton and we're like going to the beach, I'll just set up a chair and either read like a book, listen to an audiobook, or just
Yes.
pass out in the sun. And there's something about the sun and just sleeping in the sun. You just got to be careful. You don't want to fall asleep for hours and not put on any
Oh, yeah.
suntan stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm originally from New Hampshire, so Northeast. Grew up like outside, so I definitely am happy to be back in my element.
Right on. So I guess let's get on with the technical stuff. So for the audience, in my opinion, there are none people out there that exist in tech that keep track of like news, like updates, trends, like better than Alex Perkins, probably ever. We're constantly sharing stuff back and forth. It's been great. I thought for this episode we could kind of go over some of the good and bad in the news lately. Things that really stood out, and finish with a fun game, which Alex knows nothing about yet. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, well, I'll explain that later. So I guess to start things off, cybersecurity. So, and by the way, each of these is going to correspond to some news article, and I will have those in the show notes, so you can go and read it yourself and come to your own conclusion. So, first things first, cybersecurity. The article was titled "Pupils Miss Classes at School: Cyber Attacks Rise" from the BBC. This is EMEA. So, sourcing new figures from the Information Commissioner's Office shows that 347 cyber incidents were reported in the education and childcare sector in 2023, which is an increase of 55% on 2022. And this impacted childhood education in the form of temporary closures and, weeks of disruption in some cases. And sometimes these cyber attacks actually occurred within days of each other. And, since this is EMEA, these companies have to report breaches inside of 72 hours of discovery. What are your thoughts here, Alex?
That's so much. 347. That's almost like one a day, right? Like and school isn't even year round. So this article was nuts because one of the examples was a kid that was talking about how he has assignments due from 2 months ago that he hasn't even been able to access because the application that they use just isn't even available. That it's crazy. I wish there was more focus on how this kind of stuff impacts young kids in school and what it's doing to them, and like maybe having alternatives, right? Like coming up with different plans and having backups for things. If it's this common, like that, something needs to happen. Somebody should be planning out what to do when it does happen.
Yeah. Is it like going back to books? Is it fail safe?
Right.
Because, hey, you can't hack a book. I hate to sound that way, like going back to, a lot of folks would say that's the Stone Age, but
Right.
you're learning when you're young, you're a sponge. You have those precious years where you're taking in so much. And then, just we've seen it with COVID and the impacts on the, education of our children during COVID and how that played out.
Yeah.
It really sets you really behind at a time where you shouldn't be set behind. It shouldn't be, something that you as a child have to worry about and then pay for later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's benefits, of course, to, having curriculum digitally. But you got to have a backup plan or there is no benefit. So definitely something to think about.
Yeah. Stay away from the kids. If there's any hackers, any bad actors out there listening, attack the adults. Stay away from the children.
For real.
Come on.
Yep.
Grow up. Yeah. So, and, with the trend of cybersecurity things, CIO.com. Yeah. CIO.com. There was an article, Critical Infrastructure Cyber Incident Reporting Rule. And this is regarding this, you can call it that, or we can call it CERCIA. This is a big one. This is USA. So in line with kind of what we just talked about in EMEA, the GDPR forcing disclosure of cyber and ransomware incidents. This pertains to the U.S. It was passed in March 2022, and it sets a requirement for the cybersecurity and infrastructure CIRCIA to basically develop and publish rules for companies that provide critical infrastructure, and they have to report cybersecurity incidents inside of 72 hours. And what was the ransomware?
24
hours. Yeah. So I guess the gist of it is, this rule in the US is going to apply to various critical areas like energy, healthcare, transportation. And, I think the goal is to ultimately protect, the country as a whole. So from the government's perspective, knowing that these attacks are maybe happening earlier on, it gives them some sort of wherewithal to protect other organizations, maybe from similar attacks. I don't know. The rules aren't finalized yet, though, as far as I know. I think the aim was to have the rules published in 2024, I think the article said. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. I think net positive. I mean, everyone does not have the same opinion as me, but I almost think it's like too lax, like 72 hours for critical infrastructure. Maybe if this was just a regular business, 72 hours for a breach and 24 for ransomware makes sense. But I mean, remember was it a pipeline a couple years ago that got hacked?
Yeah.
Remember that? I mean, these are big deals. Like 72 hours is a long time for hackers to be inside somebody's system. Like you don't even know what they can do in 72 hours. That's a lot of damage done.
Yeah, that was Keystone, wasn't it? The Keystone pipeline?
I think so. Yeah.
We should talk about that. That was a big one to and I think that whole the Keystone pipeline incident was I think it was either a result of having an employee that had left, but their account was still available and it didn't have 2FA, or maybe it was just whatever account didn't have 2FA. I mean, it seems like honestly, a lot of those things are either phishing or lack of 2FA is the vehicle for getting in.
Yeah, I don't remember all the details of it. I just remember that that was one that was really newsworthy. So I think, I mean, even 48 hours, I guess, would be better. But 72, I think, is just too lax.
Yeah, it's kind of scary because the more that we get into, kind of like what we were talking about with the education and with, I mean, you can use books, but you're still learning, but in some ways you're going backwards because you have, I mean, technology is just integrated into like our entire social fabric at so many different levels now. But when you think about like, okay, like my water supply or my heat or things that I rely on to live, like hospitals having more and more technology, and the uptick of ransomware, successful, mind you, ransomware exploits for, the healthcare system here in the US, it's just crazy. And sometimes I think like, hey, maybe it's time for the world and innovation to just take a pause for like a year and a half. And let's go back and make sure that we're really not screwing ourselves over, because we don't security is not a forethought with anything usually, unfortunately. And we like to, it's more of like, hey, we'll get this done as fast as we can. And then we'll go back and we'll, remediate that at some point. And then it never gets remediated. And then you're on to the next thing.
Yeah, famous last words, right? I mean, it's funny too, because as things get more advanced, people don't upkeep the old systems that were in place that did work, right? They just disappeared. They just stopped caring about them. Like, how many places have some kind of analog backup ability at all? A lot of them just get rid of them completely.
Yeah. One, I mean, at the end of the day, too, everything that you do is, it costs money. And a lot of businesses out there are, I mean, it's a bad market right now, and you have to make money to keep going. And,
it's a bad market for some.
Yeah. for some, not for AI startups, which is a good segue into going on to the AI section of the show. So
Gotta talk about it. Yeah.
French. Oh my goodness, I can't even. French AI startup H raises 220 million in the seed round. 220 million. I mean, they could have used that for all these schools that are getting hacked everywhere. But yeah, we're gonna continue the AI science experiment. What do you think about this one?
Oh man, this is just comical almost. I mean, just in case anyone didn't hear him, he said seed round. He didn't say Series A, B, C, D, E. Seed round. And this company, from my understanding, is they build AI agents, right? It's not like they're building their own LLM. They're not coming out with their own product. It's just AI agents, and they got 220 million just to bootstrap the company. That is insane numbers. So
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, at the beginning, it points out the obvious there too. It's like, okay, it's not often that you hear about a seed round above 10 million. I mean, that's pretty big for even a
10 mil would be big for a seed round.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the four other co-founders previously worked for DeepMind, the AI company owned by Google, which is pretty interesting. So there's name recognition and validation with, okay, this team has built things before, and they should know what they're doing. And I think that has something to do with it, but still, that much for a seed round just seems crazy to me.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of stuff. It seems like that is a new blueprint lately, is people that used to work for all these big projects for Google are kind of like leaving and starting their own thing. There's a lot of AI startups, especially. Like, I think I mentioned this when we were recording in the She Shed, and I don't know, nobody's really talked about it much because it's not really networking adjacent. But there's another company coming out called Extropic, and they're building like a natural alternative to GPUs, like a nature-based computer chip, if you will. So there's lots of cool things happening in this space that are coming from ex-Googlers. So it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I checked that out because I hadn't heard of them until you, with all your noteworthiness news stuff that you keep on top of. I hadn't heard of those folks, and their website was pretty minimal at the time, and it just kind of had a sort of like a prospectus, if you will, or kind of a pitch or an overview. Like, there wasn't a ton of details. I don't know if that's changed, but from what it looked like, what they're trying to do is actually a big game changer, because sustainable, I mean, they're building data centers everywhere. Like, they're running out of places to build data centers, so they're building them practically in my backyard now in the hills of Kentucky. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
AWS is investing a ton of money. Meta is building a data center that's literally like 5 miles from my house. And like, I'm not in a data center, a place that you would imagine has a bunch of data centers.
Right.
So all of this stuff, it's not exactly friendly on the environment when you're building stuff and you're sourcing all these materials, and you just, it's, as far as energy sustainability and all these things, it's probably not trending in the right direction. But maybe AI can solve that for us once we build enough data centers, though.
Maybe. We'll see. Computer's the new currency, right?
Yeah, exactly. I do hope that, and I know I don't mean to be so snarky about AI so much on this podcast, but I do hope that we sort of dial it back and sort of figure out, okay, what is real and what is not real. And it doesn't have to be this gigantic marketing hype machine all the time. There are use cases that it's good for, and there's use cases that it's not good for.
Absolutely.
It's not an all or nothing thing for every category of thing humans want to do. So, yeah. So next up, oh boy. Speaking of AI, there's the article is titled "Startups Weekly: Drama at Techstars, Drama in AI." drama everywhere. This is one. I guess there's one thing in particular as I was reading through this, and I've already listened to on many. I mean, it was on the national news. So one thing in particular that I wanted to take from this article, and that is this Sam Altman and Scarlett Johansson AI drama. It's like the tech world's equivalent of a celebrity scandal. You've got Sam Altman, like the AI overlord and CEO of OpenAI. He ends up pretty much in boiling hot water because he used a voice with honestly a startling likeness to ScarJo, for his Skynet. And what makes this bad is prior to the release of his Skynet, he asked for permission from Black Widow herself to use her voice, and she said no.
Yep,
and
no way.
Next thing you know, so what's going on here, Alex?
Man, this is one of the few things I did not keep up with a lot, but I know that Sam Altman tweeted out her, and then it came out. And it's like, you can't go backwards and say, oh, we didn't mean to release this and make a likeness of you.
So can you add color on that? He tweeted her. What does that mean in case folks don't know?
Chris is going to kill me for this, okay? Chris, my other co-host on the podcast, because I have not actually seen the movie. But there's a movie called Her, and I think it's Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson is like the voice of this AI assistant, and I guess the main character kind of like falls in love with it, right? I think that's the gist of the story. But Her is the title of the movie, so it's pretty obvious with Sam Altman tweeting out Her that it's like that's the implication, is that it's her voice available as an OpenAI voice. It's
well, now there's the lawyers are involved, so I mean, do you see probably like a settlement, I guess?
I'm sure. I don't think this will turn into anything huge. It probably should, because a lot of Sam Altman has a lot of power, and if things like this don't get checked, what's to stop other people? What's to stop them doing it? And someone that doesn't have the resources that Black Widow has, to step in and stop it. So it's
yeah. I mean, anybody else, it wouldn't have mattered, but since it's a celebrity, since it's right. Everybody knows who Black Widow is. There's so many, those movies, the Marvel movies, just it's huge. She's an absolute rock star. And she's been in so much other stuff. Like she's hit the pinnacle of her just ultimate huge successful career. And the crazy thing about this is you think like if this is happening at the highest level of just all the way up, like what is happening below that? And it just sets such a bad example, for as passionate, and if you've ever listened to Sam Altman on like a podcast or anything else, I believe he's truly passionate about AI, what AI is going to do for the universe, and specifically the work they're doing at OpenAI to pioneer some of these things. So having this happen all the way up there, I mean, I think it really nerfs a lot of his credibility, and it puts a magnifying glass on him that it's gonna be there for a while. So
yeah, well, funny story, but he can just tell his safety board not to worry about it, right? Because now he's head of the safety board that advises his own board that he's head of. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it does undermine his credibility a lot. And I think a lot of these, tech rock stars, I'll call them, because Sam Altman is definitely, I think, fits that description. They really got to start being careful. These people do not just have the freedom to go do anything they want. And I'm glad that Scarlett is doing something about it, because it sets a precedence that we don't need.
Yeah. And I think on the tough side of this, on the far end of things, just, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I think all the forthcoming regulation from the government is like the opposite extreme of, I think it will just really stymie the innovation. Like some of the things, I mean, this could probably be its own show, but some of the things they're wanting to push with regulation, it's really like just not possible
Yeah.
at this point. But
No,
yeah,
I agree. Yeah. It, like you said, that could be a much larger conversation, but I agree that there needs to be somewhere in the middle. You can't have just unfettered, like go as fast as you want, but at the same time, you can't have things slowing it down unnecessarily either.
Yeah. Especially with stuff like this, it could ultimately ruin someone's livelihood or like a whole category, a whole profession. You have to think about these things as a society, how it's going to impact, what is a broader impact. So,
right.
Yeah, I guess plowing right ahead, Cisco Live is happening this week. And, if there's one thing I know, it's Cisco Live will announce anything and everything to do with whatever the hottest trends are at the moment. And since
correct.
that is AI right now, Cisco decided to hyperflex, deploy your AI cluster with a single click. It's full stack, it's intuitive, and the performance is even hyper as well. Is this a marketing exercise for something that is still getting cooked up in the kitchen, or is it an existing thing that they're now wrapping in an AI story, or is it something completely new and valuable that will enable the existing Cisco customer base? Any thoughts?
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend to know everything about this announcement yet, because I think I sent this to you like literally yesterday.
It's Cisco is it Nexus Hyperfabric? It's
Nexus
okay.
Hyperfabric. Yep. And so what this is basically you can already use Nexus Dashboard to control like a spine leaf fabric that you create with either Nexus devices, or you can use it to control your ACI fabrics. But now there's a third option, and that is this Hyperfabric, as they're calling it. And essentially this is, as you could guess, an AI fabric. Some details on the hardware. I think what I saw is that it's based on Cisco Nexus 6000 gear, and the silicon is from the Cisco Silicon One line. I don't know a whole lot about Silicon One. I've never really looked into that, but my understanding is that this is also a partnership with NVIDIA, but it's not a partnership like you would think it is, where it's a partnership just for GPUs. It's more actually a partnership on the software layer of AI that NVIDIA has. So things like, they announced recently these things called NIMs, which are, I think they're called NVIDIA inferencing machines. And what they are is essentially like Kubernetes clusters that you can spin up that are kind of like LLMs. Like they're like their own little mini LLMs that do just different. They're like agents, I guess. They're really more like agents, like AI agents. So, I mean, what worries me here, and I just realized this when you were talking about your Hyperflex, is that they just announced Hypershield, right, which came from their acquisition of Isovalent. And now this is Hyperfabric. Is this going to be a new thing now? Like everything's going to be branded as Hyper? And we're going to see, because, right, they used to have Hyperflex. I don't think Hyperflex is a thing anymore, but I'm not sure about that. It's just funny, like everything's going to be named Hyper going forward.
But I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's just a stack of hardware with proprietary software on it, right?
Exactly. That's all it is.
It's the same thing that because I remember like there was just these huge announcements. It was when Cisco Secure Agile Exchange came out for their hybrid connectivity play, and standardizing things across, kind of like integration and standardizing across clouds. Basically, they ship you a stack of compute and you install it at a colo, and so it almost sounds like the same thing that always happens here. But
yeah, it does. And also, I feel like this is almost like a preemptive, attack against, like HPE bought Juniper, and their whole messaging around that has been they can provide everything for your AI, like your on-prem AI data center, right? Or a hybrid cloud AI data center, if you will. To me, this kind of seems like they're trying to get ahead of the competition and saying, hey, we have this as well. You don't need to go look anywhere else.
Yeah. And I really honestly like Cisco I used to be the biggest Cisco fanboy ever growing up. It was I was obsessed. I had practically a Cisco data center in my basement when I was studying for the CCIE. And, I really do hope, Cisco continues to succeed, but I think the buying and integrate, if I'm doing something and I have to log into 5 different UIs, it's kind of a pain in the neck. And there's just so much, it feels like that a lot of things are disjointed, in a sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that from an operational perspective for the folks that are actually operating some of these large networks, they want a little more consistency. Instead of okay, we bought this, we bolted it on, we bought this, we bolted it on, maybe we built something here and there. But it just seems disjointed to me, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and to just speak to that super quick, this is all managed through Nexus Dashboard. But like I said, originally it's also with Nexus Fabrics, it's with ACI, and now it's with Hyperfabric. So it's sure, there's a solution, but it's a solution to a problem that they created. You're still just using one interface to manage 3 separate Cisco interfaces. At some point, let's just standardize on one thing and just have, one interface that does it all instead of just abstractions on abstractions on abstractions.
Right. Yep. Well, since Cisco is a market leader in AI now with Hyper things, there must be a certification track to go along with it, because why not? So we have a CCDE AI infrastructure certification now. It's supposed to be vendor agnostic. You actually sent me this link and I got a chuckle out of it. What do you think? Are you actually shortlisting this one for your studies, Alex?
No, definitely not. So if you ever listen to Russ White talk about the CCDE, it was always meant to be vendor agnostic, right? And whether that's true or not, I can't speak to. I've never even looked at what the CCDE covers. But the only thing I'll say about this is an elective for your CCDE. So again, I could be wrong in how this works, but I guess it's more like having a specialty. So it's not like it's not a new CCDE where the entire exam is about AI infrastructure. It's just that is a small focus. It's like when you get a college degree and you have a minor, right? It's that kind of thing. So
that's good. I mean, I got to say, most of this, I would say most of the Cisco certs that I took over the years were pretty vendor agnostic, to be honest. I think the one that I took that wasn't really as much was the CCNP security certification back in the day. And granted, that's going to be more focused towards their products and how you do security, where the network ones were much more open. You're using, OSPFs, route redistribution, route aggregation, all the way, layer 2 all the way up to layer 3, all the different things that you would need to know, which are pretty portable amongst, networking's networking, BGP's BGP, TCP/IP, baby, under the hood. Really hasn't changed much over the years. So,
yeah, I think that they do a really great job of the ones that are not specific are pretty vendor neutral. I mean, if you ask most people, hey, I want to get into networking, what should I start with? They're most likely going to say the CCNA, right? They've done a really good job with some of them. And then, like you said, something like security, you would almost expect it to be Cisco centric. So I do appreciate that with their exams.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely, taking some of the cloud exams. Cloud exams are not cloud agnostic at all.
No, they're not.
At all. And they never will be, probably. They are so far from cloud agnostic that it's painful. But I think it's the nature of the beast with cloud and operating cloud. It's going to be the way it is. It would be cool, for some sort of, I don't know, a truly vendor, taking more standard certifications and licenses, outside of the peer review of vendors, and more of a real open standards body But then, we've all seen how that, I don't know, how that plays out a lot of times. It's tricky.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be awesome if somebody could come out with some kind of vendor neutral thing for cloud certifications. But like you said, they're all so different, right? They're also opinionated in how they do things and have such specific products. It's really more just you kind of have to piece it together yourself. And I'm sure that will change someday. Or someone who creates a layer on top of them will come out with a cert,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I have read on LinkedIn, I think twice in the past week or two, but just two folks in the network industry that have said, hey, they made an announcement about it. I don't know why you would announce this or if it matters, but I'm just going to let my CCIE expire. Like, it had its value and it's great, but now I'm doing more things and I'm much more busy and I just don't have time maybe to keep re-upping. Which I thought, I don't know, I feel like if I went through and I know I got halfway through the CCIE. I was getting ready for the labs when, my first child was born, and it just nerfed all my time. I just couldn't, I could never take it. So
I think if I had a CCIE, I'd at least try to stick it out to get that emeritus status at least. I don't know if I could just let it lapse. Although I had a CCNP and I let it lapse, so maybe
me too.
Maybe not.
Yeah, pretty interesting. That's a pretty crazy debate though. Whenever you start, there was so much drama always about certifications and CCIE isn't valuable anymore or something. Somebody will say something and then people come out of the bushes everywhere
and just hot topic. Yeah,
tackle it. It's like linebacker on middle schooler. Just boom. And yeah, people take that really seriously. There's a lot of pride with the CCIE for sure.
Yes, there is.
So getting to the last leg of the show, I will title this Tech Trend Takedown. So we're going to play a game. We'll see if I keep this in the actual episode recording or not. I was just, okay, so making myself serious now. To finish off the show, I want to play a spin-off of a game that I remember people playing when I was a kid. I actually played it as a kid, like middle school age. But the thing that made me think about it the other day, I was walking around the neighborhood and I heard some kids playing a game like this. But basically, the rules are as follows. So you must choose one of three actions to take in response to a tech phenomenon that I will name. You have 20 seconds to answer, and your actions that you can take are one of the following three. Be stranded on a desert island with for 2 years. Work in an open office with this until you retire. Or you can throw in the towel and join the trend. Okay, let's go.
Yikes.
So 3 great options just to rephrase: be stranded on a desert island with this trend for 2 years, work in an open office until you retire, or you can throw in the towel and join. So are you ready?
Yeah, I'm begrudgingly
just do one
ready.
round. This one thing. So the phenomenon is tech influencers making dancing videos on TikTok. You have 20 seconds.
Oh man, you went there. Okay, 20 seconds. Geez. Okay, so island open office. Oh gosh, definitely not an open office. I don't want to be taking dance breaks throughout my workday for the next
Open office
20
is down.
years. All right, so island or gosh, what was the last one?
So be stranded on a desert island with for 20 or 2 years. 2 years only on the desert island, or you can throw in the towel and just join the trend wholesale.
Oh man. I'm not a dancer, man. As much as I would love to just join in, and I think I'll be stranded on an island, just watching TikTok and Instagram videos and just dancing.
I'll say, hey, at least you have the sunshine, right? The sunshine,
There
you have a
you
nice
go.
tan,
There
you'll be
you
nice
go.
and bronzed coming back to real life. So
Of course, after
yeah,
2
that's always
years of
good.
being alone with that, I'll probably come back and be doing it myself, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not a dancer either. If anybody's ever seen me dance, I'm sorry.
Yeah, same
Even
here.
when I'm trying to be funny, it's just not fun. Not a dancer. Anyhow, well, it's been awesome having you on. This has been a great show. Where can people find you? I mean, they already know where to find you. You're like a celebrity now with Cables2Cloud. Your all's podcast, by the way, is so good. Like you all, the news episodes are like short and concise. They're just valuable. I think those are my new favorite. All of the Cables2Cloud content's good, but the news episodes are fantastic, and you always have such good guests. So, yeah, where can people find you?
Well, I'm sure I speak for all three of us, but we definitely appreciate that. We've got a lot of feedback and changed a lot of things over. We've been doing this just a little over a year, and I think we got a good sweet spot going right now. So your show's awesome too, though, man. I listen to all these episodes, and you've had some really good guests and live shows and lots of cool stuff. But where people can find me at Bumps in the Wire. I'm on X and Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably like where you find me the most. I don't really tweet much. I mean, I'll kind of reshare things here and there. And Discord, I guess, so you can find me in the A1 Discord server. And that's about it. I have a blog, but I don't post on it. So
you ought to. You have one. I think you have one blog article sitting out there, and it's pretty good.
I do. I have one that I spend a lot of time on, and then I just haven't had time. Too many other things to do. But I should probably make time for it.
Stuff competing for your time. Story of our lives. Working in tech. It's crazy. All right, sir. Enjoy your summer.